Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Thomas Jefferson said, "If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done." Benjamin Franklin said, "Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning." We need to move forward as people to be able to be more than what we are. Now, I'm going to warn you folks ahead of time. I am going to anger some of you folks. How I know this is because, well, I've spent some of my day, not that much of it, but I spent some of my day causing people consternation. I was in an ornery mood, and I went to some of these here MeWe groups that has folks involved in them. And I was listening to these folks claiming what their political beliefs were. They were pulling out definitions and claiming as they were liberals and they believed in these things and they pulled out these definitions. Well, I hate to tell you this, but your actions prove otherwise because you support people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all of these folks that aren't helping people's civil liberties, but instead are hurting our civil liberties. Now let's start with my political beliefs and how I have shown my political beliefs. I said yesterday that I am a minarchist. I've said this a few times today. I believe that we should have just enough government that we can, one, afford, and two, that makes sense for us to have. I do not believe that we need to continuously grow government and constantly take away people's civil liberties. I believe that government is the larger and larger government does not help people, but instead hurts people. And I back that up by facts. Growing government creates tyranny. It does not create freedom. And that is what I believe. And so I don't vote for candidates who I believe are going to cause it. And if I vote for somebody who causes it, then I'm not going to vote for them again. And I am going to be upset that I voted for somebody that proved that they are not worthy of my vote. Now, I have never voted for Donald Trump. I did not think that he was somebody who would allow my vote to count for something. So attacking me on Donald Trump is kind of amusing. It really is, because I didn't vote for him. I think that he did do some good, but I also think that he caused other problems via the political appointees that he chose to be put into places. And so I have no problems that I didn't vote for that man. I don't think that he was a horrible president. I think he was better than the average bear of what we've had lately. But at the same time, when you take a look at different members of his cabinet, no, I am not going to vote for him this coming election unless it's to annoy some family members. Seriously, that's the only way you're going to get my vote for Donald Trump. And that's to annoy certain family members, just to be able to go, hey, I voted for him, just to cause the consternation that it will cause. saying all of that, I still don't think that he will, in any way, shape, or form, outdo what he has done since. Nor do I think that he is going to become a tyrant. I think he has political dreams. I honestly do. I think he has political dreams. And I think that his political dreams are probably going to be good for the economy. I would hope that he learned from his first time in office and that he puts people into positions of power that are not going to work against freedom in this country. But claiming he's a traitor when he isn't is silly and just straight up going to cause me to laugh at you. I don't have to defend my position because I didn't vote for him. I don't have to defend my position because I am trying to make sure that I have a principled vote that goes to those people who I honestly believe are going to be fighting for freedom. That is my one and only want. I am going to vote for the person that I think will bring about freedom. The sad part is, in 2016, my vote for Cthulhu was probably a smarter vote than voting for any of the 5 people that were on the ticket. Hillary Clinton is never, ever going to get my vote. If her daughter runs, that is not going to be my vote. I am not somebody who believes that the Clinton family is in any way, shape, or form a good thing for this country. And I'm saying all of this being egotistical in a way because of the conversations that I had today. There are so many people that I listened to that started claiming, oh, well, I'm a liberal, so I believe in these things. No, you don't. Modern liberalism, there is something called classic liberalism and modern liberalism. These are considered political philosophies. If you are not claiming that you are a Democrat or a Republican or something like that, then you are espousing a political philosophy. You are not espousing anything other than a political philosophies. Philosophies develop over time. Philosophies change over time. And guess what? Modern liberalism and what it's proven, if you are voting for the Democrat Party, you are a modern liberalist, and you are not voting for civil liberties. You are not voting for freedom. You are not voting for anything that helps better those people who are citizens of the same nation that you are. You are voting for big government. All big government leads to is tyranny. When Hitler came into power, when Mussolini came into power, when Stalin came into power, they had they gave all these promises that was pie in the sky to get support. They wanted to take guns away from certain people because of crime. No. They realized that if they took guns away, then their edicts would not have people going against them. They were able to take away people's freedom of speech. They were able to lie to the people and get away with it. Welfare is not a good thing for a country. Making people dependent on the government for their source of income is just a way to get votes for certain things that are not good for this country. The idea of unions, while it sounds good, and it has done a little bit of good in this country, the bad that it has done for this country outweighs it by a great margin. The unions of this country are 100% behind the Democrat Party. There are some that are attempting to leave, but you take a look at all these unions. Seriously, go through there and look at the political donations of all of these unions. If you are a member of a union, then most likely your union dues are being used to pay for the Democrat Party. That is where their biggest amount, one of their biggest amounts of political donations are coming from. Unions. And when you hear Democrats go, well, we need to grow government, one of the things that they're saying is that we need to grow employees in the government so that we can get them to become union employees so we can fill the Democrat coffers. That's what they mean by it. They don't mean that they're wanting to help people, because most government employees don't act on the federal government level, don't actually do anything. Or at least if they do something, most of the time it's not helpful to anybody. So quit claiming that you're for civil liberties if you're a Democrat, because your actions via your vote have proven the exact opposite. Government that grows starts taking away freedom. End of story. You take a look at our current government. If you were to bring in, say, Samuel Adams, seriously, look into who Samuel Adams was. If you were to bring Samuel Adams forward to this time and he was to take a look at this government, take him from 1775, and he was to take a look at this government, he would be sitting here in shock that we have allowed ourselves to lose our freedom and our will to go forward. Because we're not going forward. I hate to tell you that, but we're not going forward. At this point, we're starting to go back. Now, I'm not saying, let's go into me saying that I'm a minarchist. Okay, I'm willing to defend why I say that I am what I am. The basics of it, in a lot of ways, minarchists are considered conservative. Okay, I called myself conservative for a while. Then I got to looking at what the conservative movement was in this country. And I went, what? What they were claiming to be conservative as a political philosophy, I'm like, I can't, what? No, the actions were different than what they were claiming as a political philosophy. You take a look at the law and order movement within the conservative groups. These folks that no matter what cops do, they defend them. Even when these cops are proven to be corrupt, to be horrible for civil liberties, they defend them. They defend having private prisons that are being used to house people in a way that once they get into the system, they're constantly claiming that these people that are in there are doing things so that they can keep them in there and to keep making money. People have gone undercover. I've talked about this. There is a book and a series by a liberal that actually went in as a prison guard down in Louisiana. I forget the name of the book right this minute. I'm not going to look it up, but you can look it up. But what I read in that book, I went, I don't stand for that. I want small government, not government for the corporations and by the corporations. And that's what that is. And then I got to really looking into it. These state governments and the federal government sign these contracts with these corporations, and then they're told by the corporations, hey, we have to have these jails filled to a certain percentage, or you're going to have to pay us extra money. So the judges are being told, you have to put people in jail. You have to send these people to prison. Never mind the fact that these folks would do better if they're outside of prison and being productive members of society. People, first time offenders especially, are not wanting to go to prison. And they will most likely, not all of them, especially if they are nonviolent, are not going to try to go to prison. If you give them a chance, they will most likely do something to make sure that they don't go to prison. If you are giving them an option, hey, be on probation, have a job, we won't give you a prison sentence. What we'll do is allow you to, yes, you're going to have to pay certain amounts of money as a fine for what you did, but you get out here and you don't break the law again. Most of those folks don't break the law again, but you send these people to prison, as so many criminals have stated, and you can go through there and listen. Prisons are a graduate school for criminals. And so sending them to prison, especially to these private prisons, these folks aren't learning or aren't being rehabilitated. These folks aren't learning to become productive members of society. Instead, they're learning that they're being used as assets, not being used in a way that will cause them to not want to recommit crimes. Yes, you send your worst of the worst to prison. You send members of organized crime to prison. You send murderers. You send people that have committed other crimes that are violent to prison. If somebody embezzled $1 million, you send them to prison. A person that has never committed a crime, has led an otherwise somewhat productive life, gets caught stealing food, you don't send that person to prison. You don't send a person to prison because they decided that they wanted to enjoy some weed because that's what younger folks do. And a lot of the folks that get busted that are getting for weed are getting sent to prison, and they're learning how to be good criminals in these prisons. They're not getting taught how to be hopeful. They get into these prisons and they continuously get violated while they are in prison so that the prisons can keep them in there and make more money. So I couldn't stand that. As somebody who believes in small government, I looked at this entire situation and I went, I don't agree with that. But these folks are claiming to be conservative. Well, I don't agree with that kind of conservatism. Then I got to looking at these folks that were claiming to be conservative, and they continuously voted for Republican candidates because the Republican Party is the conservative party. And I got to looking at the Republican Party. These folks don't go for small government. As a matter of fact, most of the time, the GOP is the do-nothing party. We had one of those before, and they weren't worth anything. So, I was like, okay, so I can't agree with the Republican Party because when they get in power, they don't do anything. They claim, hey, we're for small government. But when they get in office, do they cut the government? No, because that might have been mainstream media. We can't afford to piss off mainstream media. Really? You have a problem pissing off your voters, but not mainstream media? If you are willing to sit there and do something, I'll vote for you. I don't care what mainstream media says. Most of the people of the Republican Party don't watch mainstream media anymore because they don't believe it. But if we know for a fact that you're willing to cut government in an intelligent manner, you're going to get voted for again. But no, we've got these people claiming to be conservative that allow these members of Congress to go back into the government over and over and over again that do nothing. They put on a little bit of a show. They put on a little bit of a dog and pony show, as we called them in the Marine Corps. But they don't do anything. They don't help civil liberties. They don't help freedom. They just sit there, flap their jaws, do a little dog and pony show, and that seems to make supposed conservatives happy. So then I went, okay, well then I must be something a little bit different than conservative. And I got to looking into it, and I went, okay, I must be a constitutional conservative. I know I'm conservative, so I must be a constitutional conservative. Because I knew I wasn't liberal. All these liberals that are up there, wow, I have a lot of respect for Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who is probably one of the most well-spoken members of Congress that's been up there in a long time from the Democrat Party. While I respect Daniel Patrick Moynihan in a lot of ways, I would never have voted for him because I didn't agree with him. I didn't think that my vote belonged to somebody like him. I could respect his intelligence. I could respect that he wanted certain things and that he fought for certain things, but what he fought for, I didn't stand for. And if he, as somebody that I considered far more principled and far more intelligent than the average bear, if I didn't agree with him, then I couldn't be liberal. So I went, okay, maybe I'm a constitutional conservative. So I called myself constitutional conservative for a while. And then I got to looking, The constitutional conservatives, the folks that consider themselves constitutional conservatives, are doing the exact same thing that conservatives are. They might be a little bit more principled in how they do things, but they're still about as useful as a tick. Because these folks are still getting up there. The folks that are claiming that they're constitutional conservatives are still getting into office and still doing the same things. So I had to really examine what I wanted, what my political beliefs were, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I wanted to be principled. And I knew that modern conservatism was not what I stood for because of all the disparate voices that become a cacophony instead of a chorus. And the same with being a constitutional conservative. And I realized that deep down at the core of my political beliefs, there is one word that I stand for above all else, and that is freedom. And every time I hear a liberal claim that they're for freedom, I start laughing. Because that's a joke. But I stand for freedom. And my vote is the most potent way that I can show that I stand for my freedom. And the reason why I took a look at Trump and went, I can't vote for him, is because the people that he was gathering around him from the Republican Party, some of these folks, I was well aware, weren't standing for freedom. How can I vote for somebody who gather people around him that some of them are for freedom? Betsy DeVos, her and her husband, what her and her husband did with the charter school that they created is amazing. I think Betsy DeVos was a good Secretary of Education. I think the attacks on her were despicable by the left. I think what some of those school systems did were despicable. But then you had Jeff Sessions. One of the primary ways that we defend freedom in this country is by our Attorney General. And Jeff Sessions has spent a lifetime with his head up his anal orifice trying to take away freedom from people instead of trying to help freedom. And then when Trump got into office, hey, Mad Dog Mattis, I still think that General Mattis should have ran in 2020. Having the campaign slogan Mad Dog 2020, while I'm well aware that he doesn't necessarily like the Mad Dog nickname, you can't tell me that running under the Mad Dog 2020 campaign would not have been a more awesome thing. Now, Mattis said some things that I didn't fully agree with, but I didn't pay that no mind because I thought that he was still a good Secretary of Defense. And Trump undercut that man so often. His actions towards General Mattis, just how their relationship was, showed me that I was glad to not have voted for Trump. I'm not saying that Trump's an evil person. I just don't agree with him. And Jeff Sessions, while there was Betsy DeVos and Ben Carson, and I like that he picked General Mattis, I don't believe how he treated General Mattis is how I thought that General Mattis should be treated, nor was I happy with choosing Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. And some of the actions of Sessions while Attorney General, I don't think was doing freedom any good whatsoever. But all of this made me continue searching. What exactly am I if I can't fit into the conservative, the hierarchy of conservatism? And then I got to studying political philosophy a lot more. And I got to finding out that there is a political movement, a political philosophy called minarchy. What it is, it's a combination of minimal government and anarchy. It doesn't say that we have complete anarchy. What it says is that we have minimal government that allows people freedom of action. I don't want people telling me, oh, I have a gambling addiction, so we shouldn't have casinos and the lottery. Or it's against my religious beliefs. On a national stage, no. You don't like marijuana, but guess what? You start decriminalizing marijuana, and that actually does much better for communities. Not everybody that votes for decriminalizing marijuana are going to sit there and get high. They're not going to start listening to Snoop Dogg. They're not going to listen to, oh shoot, all of a sudden I had the name of the band I was thinking of kind of left my brain there for a minute. But they're not going to all of a sudden start championing stupidity. If you get high and get behind the wheel, the marijuana part isn't the important part. You committed a crime. You're driving while intoxicated. That is a crime. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that you need to have people in Chicago defending themselves because the police have proven in Chicago that they can't protect the citizens of Chicago, so the citizens of Chicago should start helping themselves. Now then, are deaths going to rise in Chicago if the citizens start being able to defend themselves? Yes. I am well aware that the deaths will rise. There will be a few innocent folks that will die, but what will start happening is that these criminals that are randomly killing people will start fearing for their lives. And after a while of them realizing that they are not going to be able to be terrorists anymore, and that's what these criminals are in cities like Chicago, what they're going to realize is that they can no longer be terrorists, and they're going to wake up one day and go, you know what, if I stop committing crimes, I might live longer. I might not have to worry about the stupidity that comes with me being an idiot. And you know what? That needs to happen. These cities that are filled with crimes, for that matter, that are filled with organized crime, if they start having regular folks that can defend themselves, the criminals start realizing that they are the hunted, no longer the hunters. The predators become the prey at that point. They can't break into people's homes and steal whatever they want. They cannot sit there and turn these neighborhoods into drug war zones. They start realizing that the people of these neighborhoods want their kids to live in peace, and if it takes some violence to allow their kids to live in peace, then so be it. These are the things that I realized that I stood for. You don't have to agree with me to listen to me. Matter of fact, I want you to argue with me on these points. I don't want everybody to believe the exact same as I do. It's called freedom. But what I do want you to believe is the truth about yourself. I told you about my journey so that you can realize that claiming that you are something does not make it true. If you are for big government, you are not a classic liberalist. Quit using that definition when you claim that you are a liberal. You are a modern liberal, and modern liberalism does not promote freedom. Don't claim that Nazi Germany was right-wing when it was all about government. Don't claim that somebody is fascist because you don't agree with them when fascism was as much about how government took control of financial situations. Fascism was about as much about how they controlled the economy and workers as it was about what they did militarily. And fascism and Nazism were two completely different things. I'm getting tired of hearing that. Start believing the truth. Take a look at yourself and figure out what you believe. If you believe in law and order, does that mean that you really want to defend bad cops that cause there to not be the order part? Cops that are used for revenue generation are not law enforcement at that point. They aren't. Cops that are used to generate revenue for communities are the exact opposite. They are causing people to not feel safe. They feel like that, the citizens feel like, that is, that at that point they are becoming assets. Not in a positive way, but they are becoming a business asset. That doesn't make them feel like they're part of the community. That makes them feel the exact opposite. When you have private prisons, when you have these states that have these contracts with these private prisons, folks feel that if they make a mistake, then they become property of the state. That doesn't make them feel free. That doesn't make them feel connected to their community. And it doesn't make them feel connected as a United States citizen. This country was based on freedom. So what are you doing to promote freedom? Now, if you're not promoting freedom, fine, admit to it. If you belong to the Democrat Party, you aren't fighting for freedom anymore. You are fighting for large government that is going to tell you what to do in every aspect of your life. Don't tell me that's freedom. I enjoy college sports. Matter of fact, what's going on with the WNBA right now, I'm glad to see Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink. Those players have excited people for the WNBA. And these women that are in the WNBA that are attacking Caitlin Clark because she's excited a fan base and they're wanting to embarrass her, where was this before? Seriously, where was this fire before? You had these WNBA people that were going, oh, revenue, let's do revenue sharing like they do in the NBA. Okay. Somebody did the math the other day. I don't know who it was that did it. It was a random video. I think it was Outkick or something like that, sports. They did the math. Instead of you making money if you're a WNBA player, if you're sharing the revenue, you would owe the WNBA $83,000. Almost $84,000. So, you claiming that you want revenue sharing, okay, fine. Write a check for $84,000. You want to not have to go overseas to make money. Well, then create a sport that people want to watch. I do not want to watch a basketball game in which 5 minutes at a time, multiple times in a basketball game, there is absolutely no scoring going on. I don't want to watch that. I also don't want to watch what's happening in the NBA right now. I honestly don't know how they're making that much money when the game is nothing in the world but people showing out that they can hit a shot from 40 feet away from the net. I might as well watch slam ball. Honestly. I don't. If you want to watch sports, okay, fine. I'm not going to watch the NBA. I don't watch the NFL. I watch college sports because, hey, you've got enough different types of games going on, you're not watching the exact same thing. These people talking about pro style offenses in the NFL. Well, to be honest with you, I don't want to watch every team doing the exact same thing just with different players. In college football, you've got different types of offenses. You've got teams that are doing different things, and when they clash on the football field, it's enjoyable to watch. I didn't agree with the NCAA for a long time, and they're starting to get their comeuppance, and I'm going, hey, I appreciate that. I love sports, but I don't watch certain things for that reason. So why, if I have strong political views, am I going to support people that aren't based on what I actually believe? So, if you are a liberal, be a liberal. But if you believe that you are a classic liberal, if you give me the definition, and people literally got the definition out of a dictionary of what liberal is supposed to be, and it's the definition of a classic liberal. If you are a liberal, be a liberal. But that means that you have to destroy the modern Democrat Party, because the ideals that you are claiming are not what that party stands for. Stand for your ideals. Don't sit there and lie to yourself. Now, I want to thank everybody that listened. If you liked what you heard, even if you didn't like what you hear, give me a comment. Let's talk about it. I am willing to discuss these things with you. I might not be the nicest person to talk to when you're talking to me, especially if you're lying to yourself, but I am willing to talk with you about these things. Like, comment, share, join the channel. I have a link tree at the bottom. It has a link to my book. It has a link to my Facebook, my MeWe. Send me a message. Seriously, I will talk to you if you send me a message. I am willing to talk to people. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Have a good day.